day, she said, and we were sitting by each other, she said, I am shocked the crowds the girls are getting.
Right. Right.
And I looked, and the girls' lines were longer than the guys' lines.
Dude.
Well, I'll tell you from someone that watches.
He's always been
I'm
on
all
that.
about the
Yeah,
women, and
he's
they're
why
actually
do I have a hard
old.
time with this?
They're actually old school. They keep it old
Yeah,
school,
not
and
that
they're
old
very
school.
talented.
Well, they're
Let me. Here's something disturbing that I want to bring up to you. Right, I was watching a documentary, and it was basically, about the whole WCW switch where Nash and Hall go over check kind of the Monday Night Wars thing. But I almost thought this was offensive, and I wanted to get your viewpoint on this. And I know you're close with him, but Nash says in this documentary when he was leaving the WWE, he didn't want to go. He was walking,
He was reluctant.
right?
That's
He
true.
was walking into a program that had Hogan throwing the Giant off the roof of the Cobo Arena.
What did that kill him?
And the Dungeon
Anyway.
of Doom.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
right.
it was a joke.
Right.
What were your thoughts about
And
that?
he was right, because I had planned it that way. Look what I did. I put all of Hogan's buddies in one shot. I had to get his to trust me, because I think I've said this to you before. He was starting to get booed out of the building.
True.
I needed him to turn heel, but everybody was in his ear, whether it was his agent, his lawyer, other people around him. You can't turn heel, you can't turn heel.
So are you saying that you wrote it so poorly to force a heel turn?
Well, I also didn't write it all myself,
Okay.
because
Were you
Hulk had
behind the
crazy.
heel turn for Hogan?
He stayed at my house that night.
You were behind the heel turn
Absolutely.
for Hogan. Wow, you are a fucking genius.
He
That
stayed
was fucking
behind
amazing.
in my house, so
Wow.
no one could get him.
Was
He slept-
Hogan afraid to turn heel?
Yes.
What was this like when you broke this to him? This is amazing.
Well, what happened was, and you guys may remember this, we were in Chicago, which was a heel town. He came out dressed not in the red and yellow that night. He came dressed in all black,
Okay.
with a black bandana.
Okay.
And he went out to interview Gene live,
Okay.
and the whole building booed. And Gene, being a genius, said, "You can hear the Samba move tonight." From the people, saved it.
So Gene on the improv was able
Yeah,
to.
and I went right to him that night, and I said, "You think I'm right?
It's time.
It's time."
It's time.
And so at the very last night, I lived a mile from the Ocean Center where the event took place.
Okay. Okay.
I said, "You're staying at my house." Well, I opened the door. He comes to my house. His agent's with him.
Okay. Okay.
I had a 3-bedroom house.
All right.
I put Hogan in another bedroom. The guy starts to go to the other bedroom. I said, "You're sleeping on the couch. I want to keep my eye on you." We waited. I put the TV on.
How
when
frightened
the first,
was Hulk Hogan? I mean, he must have been.
because we don't like change. Nobody likes
This
change.
must have been terrifying to Terry Bollea.
Yeah, because that's all he knew. But
Did you know it was going to work?
he was a great heel in Japan.
Did you know it
Yes.
was going to work?
It was the only. I've heard stories about Sting and Mabel and all this. You couldn't do it, Sting, because he was a WCW guy.
Right. Right.
What said New York more than Hulk Hogan?
Nothing. Nothing.
So I have Nash, Hall,
You got Razor,
and
Diesel.
I got Hulk Hogan, the
got
biggest
the
star in the
incredible
wrestling
Hulk Hogan.
business, turning heel.
Right.
If you go back to that video, they're standing ankle deep in trash.
It was unbelievable. I've never seen
And it
anything
was
like
it revived his career.
Right. Right.
And you got to remember this too. You guys remember Hulk when he was up here.
Sure. Absolutely. Absolutely.
He started to have back problems when it came to us.
Okay.
He was stooped over. Do you remember the finger point of doom that he came up with?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Go
Sure.
back and look at it, and look at the difference in size between him and Nash.
Right.
You
right.
think he wanted to work with Nash that night?
Right.
Nash has taken the heat all these years. He's been a good soldier because Kevin was a military guy.
Right.
And he knew to ride the wave. He wasn't going to, and Kevin had put away a lot of animosities against Hulk. So Kevin knew to do the right thing because Hulk wanted that.
So, wait a minute. I want to make this clear.
Yeah.
Nash took a lot of heat because a lot of people said he was a booker.
Yeah.
The finger point of doom, right?
Yeah, that was.
He took the. But you're saying he did the right thing because Hogan couldn't work anymore because of his back.
Well, it wasn't that he couldn't work anymore. He didn't want to work with Nash. Because he'd have to give a lot to Nash because he's an aggressive worker.
Gotcha.
And here's the other thing: Kevin had beaten Goldberg, right?
Right. Cattle prod, but
But he beat him.
Cattle prod.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The belt goes to
I
Kevin.
get it.
Because
I
he's the
lived it.
booker. He's
I
the
lived
booker.
it.
And everybody
Yep.
said, well, he did that because he was the booker. Mm-hmm. He dropped the belt to Hogan
Right.
the next week, right?
Right. Right.
Did that help Kevin?
Why did I enjoy that, by the way?
What?
Am I the only one? I
Enjoy what?
loved the finger poke. I thought it was cool. Was that your idea, by the way? The
No,
finger
I thought
poke?
it was horrible.
Well, at the time, I thought it was actually great because they
Because
milked
the
us,
NWO
they milked us
was-
for 3 hours, and
I-
then it was the.
I'm kinda-
I thought it was
With all
cool.
due respect, I'm kind of with Kevin on this.
I
felt like
understand.
you just had Nash beat Goldberg.
I
You could
get
have went
it.
a little further with it.
I get it.
Let me ask you this.
I thought it was shock TV. It worked for me.
Monday Night
but-
Wars, you're a huge part of that, back and forth. When was the moment that Kevin Sullivan realized we're going to lose this war?
Ooh,
When they got Tyson.
when they got Mike Tyson.
Why?
You ruined everything.
Mike Tyson.
There's your moment.
Mike Tyson and Steve Austin.
Yeah. Yeah.
I came into the building, and Asher said this in an interview with Steve Austin because Austin asked him that question. He said, Kevin came up to me and said, the water's getting deeper than I thought it was going to get. And it's a lot colder, isn't it? Kevin laughed like hell. I knew.
Austin was
We were having Dennis Rodman.
right.
Which was great.
That
Yeah,
was great.
it was great.
And
Yeah.
Karl Malone. That was great.
But they weren't Mike Tyson.
No,
Yeah.
they weren't. They were not.
And
True.
unfortunately, Hogan at this time was not Steve Austin. Steve Austin portrayed a character that is similar to him.
You guys had
And-
Steve Austin in WCW.
Yeah.
Did you see what
Yeah.
was coming? I mean,
No, I didn't see him being Stone Cold, but I knew he was going to be a big star. He had
Okay.
everything. But
Okay.
they matched up well. It was like, in my head, it's back in the day when they took wrestling more serious. Who would win between Lou Thez and
Right.
or Inoki and Ali? You know,
Right.
that debacle they had.
Right. Thez and Gagne or Thez
Yeah,
and San
yeah,
Martino.
yeah,
I got
yeah.
you.
So and the character they created was the guy. And to this day, I think at that period of time, Vince was the greatest heel in the business.
Absolutely. Mr. McMahon.
Still
Yeah.
probably the greatest heel.
I-
in history,
he
Yeah,
may
yeah.
be the greatest heel ever.
Yeah,
Quite
and,
honestly.
And Austin played take this job and shove it.
Yeah.
And he did it creative,
Top
and
shelf.
he played to his audience,
Mm-hmm.
the beer drinkers, the wannabe tough guys,
Mm-hmm.
wannabe Steve Austin. He was not the cool NWO.
Yeah.
Right.
He was a kick-ass, badass that drank
Right.
beer, two in each hand after the match, and he was slapping the shit out of the boss.
What do you think WCW could have done after the obvious mistakes happened and everybody was a member of the NWO? I heard the Pharaoh was the member of the NWO. Let's not get into that. But, what do you think could have happened to continue the war on an effective, competitive basis?
When
What would Kevin Sullivan have
he
done?
couldn't, because the North Tower, even though we were drawing sixes and the rest of the programming on the network was drawing a .07,
Okay. Okay.
not who ended up buying it? AOL.
Yep.
Right.
AOL
Right.
looked down on us like we were the circus. They didn't want anything to do with wrestling. And I saw it one time when Eric went over and had a talk with them, and I could tell by his face, they said, we're going to get rid of this.